Let's do this. The MCU is saved by none other than Marvel Jesus, aka Deadpool. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. My name is Brandon Aries, and welcome to the Sanctuary. As many of you know, the MCU has been in quite some turmoil lately. Kind of feels like they bit off more than they can chew with this multiverse saga, and it hasn't really been landing well with any audience. Enter Wade Wilson, the Messiah of the MCU, as he's proclaiming. So did the Marvel Messiah save the MCU? We're about to find out. You know why? Because let's talk movie. And this week, Deadpool and Wolverine. Directed by Sean Levy, Deadpool and Wolverine is the third Deadpool movie, but the first Deadpool movie that shows that he's entered the MCU, as is Wolverine now. Deadpool teams up with Wolverine to stop the bad thing from happening, and roll credits. That's what the trailer showed, right? So think about those trailers. Think about them as maybe 15 to 20% of the actual film. Isn't that crazy? It's not, because that is how movie trailers should be. I don't want to watch the entirety of the film just from the trailer. Good job. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is like the perfect on-screen duo. Seeing Hugh Jackman back as Logan, aka Wolverine, was such an emotional blast, because you're wondering, how did they get him back after, kind of sending him off in Logan? And they'll talk about that. I could see why a lot of people were scared of that, because Logan felt like that peaceful send-off ending on his terms. To then go back into the MCU, almost feeling like you're tarnishing the whole point of the send-off. And trust me, I hear you, but hear out Marvel Jesus. Let him cook. Speaking of cooking, holy cameos. The cameos here are great because it's not just a quick hi-bye like some of the cameos here. There's a good portion of the cameos that we're given a purpose and we're given a role to kind of help progress the story forward. With that, some of those cameos get a redeeming send-off that they never got to in the first place. Fight scenes were so cool, so dynamic, and so unpredictable, which is exactly what I would be expecting from people like Deadpool and Wolverine. Then you put them fighting against each other, but then at the same time fighting together. Ooh, peak! The fourth wall breaks always got me, always had me laughing, because they also did a good job at being truthful and knowing when to call people out. One small gripe for me was the cussing. It felt a little overplayed, almost like they were trying to add it as filler words. However, I think that was Ryan Reynolds' way of rubbing it into Fox for Marvel giving them the R rating. They're like, all right, we have the R rating, we're gonna use it. And used it they did, for sure. I thought Cassandra Nova was a pretty good villain for this film. I think she too had struggles that were very similar to Wolverine and Deadpool, where it's about not being enough, not mattering. Being forgotten about is a huge theme here, and I think they tackled it so well. A lot of people had the thought that this movie was gonna suffer from No Way Home treatment, and as me watching it twice already, like in No Way Home, they kind of leave room for applauses and for you to process what's going on. Here, they're continuing to move the story. And I think a few years from now, when this is on probably FX and it's there just on TV, you're going to be like, oh my God, no way. So to me, I think the cameos here aren't overbearing that just help carry the film, and that's the only reason why you watch it. You're there for Deadpool. You're there for Wolverine. Most importantly, you're there because it's Deadpool 3. And it takes place in the MCU. Overall, I had an absolute blast with this film. It felt good that Marvel was ending on a high note now versus some of the low misses that have been lately. Now, this is the only film in the MCU coming out this year, which to me feels like a good thing. Like, I'm good after this. And I think Marvel needs to start kind of taking note of that. You don't have to shove stuff in our face all the time to keep us occupied. Quality over quantity. I think one of the big burning questions after this movie is the MCU back? Where does this take the MCU now, moving forward? Truthfully, I don't know. Yes, it's a mess, but it's a fun mess, filled with cameos and blood and laughs that will end your night wonderfully. And that is why Deadpool and Wolverine is getting a 4.5 out of 5. This is so far the highest rated movie that we've had here at the Sanctuary. What did you think about Deadpool and Wolverine? Comment down below, as well as the Sanctuary on Wheels is always moving, so drop down your suggested movies down below. And in case this movie loving lover boy doesn't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Peace.